Well, hello, I love Thanksgiving. I love family time, but sometimes I like to switch it up, not always do my dry brine turkey or my other brine turkey. I love them all, but this one is different. It is Turkey Roulade. We're gonna use turkey breast, 2 of them. We're gonna put them together, we're gonna roll them, and having a great filling that has bacon, kale, onion, Parmesan cheese. It actually is pretty simple. It just takes a couple steps. So we're gonna start by cooking some bacon. Now, I like to start with the bacon because I want to use that bacon grease then when I cook everything else, including the kale, the onion, and I want all that flavor in there from the bacon grease. And then we're of course going to use the bacon too. So I'm going to put the bacon down in here. These are long pieces of bacon, but they're delicious, home, beautiful, thick cut bacon. So I'm going to slowly cook these, let them kind of render out some of that extra grease. They'll kind of, they'll shrink up as they cook, and then we'll move on and add the rest of the filling. I'm pulling off the last of the bacon here. I'm gonna leave, it's just 4 slices, so we're gonna leave that residual grease and all those drippings on the pan because that is flavor, and that's what we're actually gonna cook the onion in. So I have my onion chopped up and I'll bring it right over. And this is gonna saute just like it would in an oil, any type of grease or oil. It's gonna saute and it's gonna pick up all that flavor from the bacon. So we're layering flavor, we're not wasting it. Bacon grease is to me one of the best things to cook in. Mom always would do our hash browns in that growing up. I'm gonna add some salt. It's just gonna help break down the onion and season it at every layer. And I'm gonna let it saute until it's softened. And while it's softening, I'm gonna chop up some garlic, some herbs. We're gonna add it all together. It's gonna be all Thanksgiving up in here. I'm mincing up some garlic. Now, you can use a garlic press if you want. They do technically get more of the cells broken, so it can be stronger, but with the long cooking time and with all the flavors, I'm not worried about that. I'm just gonna be chopping it and mincing it kind of. And the thing is here, we have delicious Thanksgiving flavors going on. So the garlic is gonna flavor it. And then we're gonna move on and we're gonna have sage. Now with fresh sage, I went to the garden and pulled this in. You can of course use dried. I like fresh. It does have to me a little bit better, kind of just like a more fresh flavor, that's why it's fresh. But you can use dried and just use half the amount because dried usually has a little bit stronger because it's kind of condensed. You've taken out the moisture. So I'm chopping up the sage. It's a Thanksgiving must, let's be honest. And I like to use it in various components of the Thanksgiving meal because it takes on different notes depending what it's with. So I have the sage, and then we have thyme. Now, sometimes I like to put all the whole stem in and pull it out, but for this it's a little harder the way I'm doing it, so I am gonna strip the stems and get those leaves down in there. Now, the thyme is, a delicate flavor, but it can be overpowering, so you need just enough. But what we're gonna put this up against is kale. And kale is a really strong flavor. So what I like to do is make sure I have things that will hold up to it. Now you have to make sure with the thyme that sometimes there's little stems that get in there with it. So I have all that chopped up, the onion is softened, so what we're gonna do is we're just gonna pick it all up, the garlic and the herbs, because both of them, you don't want them to burn or get the long cooking time that onion has. You can see the onion is brown now because it picked up all of those drippings from the bacon. So we just want this to cook for about a minute maybe here. And while that's cooking, I'm gonna chop up my kale and then we'll add all that. I'm taking my lacinato or dinosaur kale. I love this because it stays in the garden even through some frost like I've been having. Now you can always just strip it. So you turn it upside down, just tear it a little bit off the rib and pull the rib out. I mean, it is the easiest thing to use. Now why I like this is, it keeps a good texture when cooked. I love this kale for its dark color. It has tons of health benefits. But it also, I don't want one just to go to mush. I want something that actually keeps something to it. And once it's cooked with all these delicious flavors and aromatics in the bacon, don't think you're worried about the bitter kale. None of that's gonna be happening with this turkey. So once I have it all stripped like that, I just take it, I can tightly will just put it together so it's easier. And we're gonna go through and we're just gonna chop it up. Look at all those beautiful ridges on it. You see those beautiful kind of crinkly edges. I love that. It's to me such a fall item to have because it stays in the garden so late and it's delicious. So I'm gonna throw all this right into my skillet. We're gonna let it soften, kind of gonna tenderize it. It's gonna really pick up the flavors that are in here. And then once it's all cooked and wilted, we're gonna pull it off, let it cool off as we get the turkey ready. So I've cooked this until it's really cooked down and started wilting, which you can see here. And now this is different than a normal filling for a lot of like roulades or different things because it doesn't gonna have breadcrumbs, because I don't like breadcrumbs. Thanksgiving is all about, you already have stuffing or dressing, you already have a lot of dinner rolls or biscuits. I don't want that also in my turkey. So this is a lighter one with the kale, but it still has the good strong flavors. So I've chopped up the bacon that we cooked in the beginning, gonna add that back in. And then I'm gonna let this cool down as we start getting kind of our turkey ready, because I don't wanna stuff it with an extra hot one, and I don't wanna put the Parmesan cheese in this when it's still piping hot off the stove. So I'm gonna let that bacon kind of work back into it. I wish I could tell you how good this smells. I could just eat that. Turkey breast. Raw meat is never fun to work with. Some people think it looks ugly. It does kind of, but it's what you get through if you want to have the meat for Thanksgiving. So I have 2 turkey breasts here, and one I got started butterflying, but the one here I didn't. Now I do 2, and it's a little bit cumbersome at first, but once you put them together, you have a nicer piece of turkey roulade that's completely done. So I turn over my one that isn't, and you can kind of see the tender is already butterflied out. That's very normal. And then what I'm gonna do is just use a sharp knife. A thin knife usually works well. I'm gonna open it up. I kind of just start by this at the center, kind of make a cut so it kind of looks like it's gonna open. And then just like a book, kind of on the one side, start making cuts, and go slow if you haven't done this. Don't feel like you're in a rush. You can get this ready the morning of Thanksgiving. You can put it in the fridge for a little bit. That's why you don't want your stuffing to be hot when you put it in, because it wouldn't be food safety to put that into a cold turkey breast with your hot filling. So we're kind of butterflying open the one side. We're checking here the other side. Now, if your other side, like since my tinder was open like that, I probably won't need to do that more. You could even though get a meat pounder out if you need to. If you feel like you have a really thick part somewhere, don't feel bad getting a meat pounder out and just kind of checking that. So what I do is I open them both up, and I kind of look for where the 2 tenders can meet, and they're kind of, to me, my overlapping parts. So I want the skin to be left on my breast, because the skin, just like it would at, an actual whole bird when you do it, I want the skin to be nice and crispy on top. So I want the skin to be on the actual breast, and you can see here what I'm doing is opening it up. Look how pretty that is. If there's an extra skin kind of like that, sometimes where the neck was, they keep that skin on, I take that off. And then I have all of my strings cut already. So this is baker's twine or butcher's twine. You do not want it to be synthetic because it will melt as opposed to not melt or burn in the oven. So this is all natural cotton, and I have it ready to go because that's what we're gonna tie this all together once we get it. This mixture for the filling has cooled, so I'm gonna add the Parmesan cheese, which delicious, you can't go wrong with. Adds a good just like depth of flavor, and then some lemon juice. Lemon juice, we add it to a lot of things because it wakes everything up. It doesn't really give you that citrus at the end. It just gives you kind of that pop, and kind of to me makes all the other flavors that can get heavy kind of just wake up, and so you actually taste everything. So I'm mixing that all in. You get the cheese, you get that bacon, that kale. This could just be a good salad on its own, honestly. So I'm gonna put this right into the middle. This is the messy part. This is the part I hate to have to do on camera, because in the secret of your own kitchen, you can do it, make all the mess you want, no one will know. Everyone's gonna see me, but no one will see you make the mess. I actually have a friend that started making this every year because it's one of their favorite ways to do it. And what's great is it's a little bit different than a normal turkey. Once you get it rolled up, I don't think it's actually that much more work. So you can see I have my string already underneath both of my turkey breasts here. I'm kind of just pushing the filling out, which it will push out to the sides a little bit on its own, so I don't do it too much. And the only reason I do the string is just because then at the end, hopefully, I'd like to say it's gonna make it easier. Will it? That's always to be determined. So as we start going and twisting it and turning it, you're gonna notice that you get to that spot where the breasts are 2. So you have to kind of make sure you get your hand under there and roll them up together. But then as you do, you kind of get to this spot where here at the end, you're all together, you're all rolled up, and then you start taking your strings that you have already here, pulling them around, and this is why you want them underneath in the beginning. So I will always go under twice, if that makes sense. So like 2 turns as opposed to just 1, because once you pull that tight, it will help hold it a little bit better. That's kind of a butcher knot is gonna do that. And then you can do your final knot as you're doing it. So see, like, if I can conquer this on camera, you can conquer this in your home. That's what you need to know. And the thing is, it looks messy now, but once it bakes, it sets it and it kind of makes it so it holds better. So I'm gonna keep tying these off, make them kind of tight because you want that to stay together. And then we'll put it in our roasting pan. We'll get a butter ready because it needs to be basted. Doesn't need to be, but it wants to be. So I'll finish doing these and then we'll get it all ready. So I'm going through after I have it all tied and just cutting off quite a bit of the excess, maybe leaving ½ an inch so I can just find them later. That's just so it is a little bit easier to manage. So you can see there's our turkey roulade. We have the skin here on top, which is what's gonna brown. So I'm gonna put that and leave it on top. I know it looks kind of funny now, but once it bakes, it's gonna be delicious. So I have my rag here so I can wash my hand. On top, I wanna make sure to salt it and season it well. This is a big piece of meat. And while the filling is well salted, you wanna make sure that it is well seasoned all around because that's what's gonna actually make it have that good flavor in the end. I'm gonna put a couple cracks of pepper. You know, I love that. We're gonna take this to the oven and we're also on the stove gonna put a little bit of butter and some fresh sage and fresh thyme. I'm gonna let that melt together as this is roasting, and maybe 30 minutes in, I'm gonna start every so often just brushing the top with that melted butter and herb mixture, just to give it that extra browning and flavor. You can't go wrong with it. So I'm gonna let this roast, and then we'll be ready to go. Look how beautiful that is. So I took it out so it can rest for 15 minutes. And before I slice it, I wanna show you that melted butter with the sage and thyme. This is what I did, probably every 30 minutes or a little bit more. I would go in, and this is my last time I'm doing it, but I'm just taking that butter and giving it that beautiful glisten. Look how it helped it brown. It really helped it just look extra beautiful, I think. And that's what I think this is. I really do think it's just kind of that beautiful looking golden turkey, but in a different way. And that's what's kind of great. You can have, different types of Thanksgiving. Maybe having a whole bird is a little bit too big for your gathering, and that's okay. So we let it rest for 15 minutes because you take it out about 5 degrees before its final temperature, because as it rests in those final 15 minutes, it actually comes up to the correct temperature. So then you want to go in and kind of snip those strings and open them up, because you don't want someone to eat on it. So you can make sure to find them, open them, and look how it stays together. So when you're wrapping it up, you think, this is hard, this isn't gonna stay together. But once it's cooked, it kind of brings it together and it stays. So we have it here. I'm gonna start slicing it. The first slice or two, you're gonna think, that's not pretty, Caleb. So I'll take off a cup. Look though how instantly I took off the end, and you're already seeing that nice, kind of beautiful curve in there. That's what's great about it. And see, even though it's been resting for a while, it still has a lot of retained heat in it. Oh, look at that. Look at how beautiful that is. And then look at that as we're getting deeper into it, that beautiful ribbon that goes all throughout. That is my favorite part. I don't mind the butt end. I actually like it because it has more of the crispiness on it of the edges. We always say we're not gonna turn into our moms, and then we do. That's what my mom would say. I love it. I love the filling, and I love that this isn't one of those heavy bready fillings that a lot of roulades would have. I took a big bite. That's delicious. Each time I try it, you're getting more of that flavor. You're getting that little bit of bacon, the smokiness, along with the kale, which the kale more has this great texture to it, but doesn't have like a bitter kale flavor. And you get a little bit of that Parmesan. It's well seasoned, it's moist, and it's well flavored, and that's what I love. It has a depth to it that you just don't get with a regular turkey. That's what's wonderful about this. Unlike a regular turkey, where you're gonna have, different parts bake and roast at really different levels, and sometimes they dry out, sometimes they're underdone. This is kind of roasting all together because it's both the breast meat, and then it's cooked really well just all throughout, and that's what I love. And as you push on it, look at that juice. Look at the juice that's just coming out of it. So it's retaining a lot of that moisture, which will be for a great turkey. So I hope you try this. I hope you try something different, but more so, I hope you celebrate Thanksgiving, because that is the best part. Gathering your loved ones together and enjoying something special, making a special occasion meal. We do it only a few times a year, so we better enjoy them. Share this recipe around so other people can see. It helps me when you share them, but it helps other people see this is so doable, and it can be fun, and it can be unique, and that's the point. Check my website, wiseguide.com, for this recipe and all my other Thanksgiving recipes from years past. This year, they're all on there, so you can get all your Thanksgiving needs met right there. And I'm gonna go on and eat some more turkey, but I hope you get inspired and make some of your own too.